Hi, this is Amy Magyar at FromWithin Coaching. And today we have been creating with Coach Augusta Good, who's been with me on this entire journey. We have been unpacking strengths, but you're probably going to see this video first before you see your top 5 strengths unpacked. And the reason for this video is to give you a chance of understanding a little bit more, not only about what a strength is, but what is CliftonStrengths Assessment and why we use it, and what are some of the things for us to be able to help you understand a little bit more about what you're about to see in each one of these. So I couldn't think of a better partner to have on this trip than Augusta. Augusta,
Mhm.
you're a huge fan of strengths. I know this.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Amy. It's been an amazing journey, and I love talking about Clifton Strengths. So, looking forward to this.
Awesome. This is something like the other videos. This is not in lieu of a full coaching session, but this is, we're going to put 8 hours of a learning lab on strengths into about 20 minutes. So there's going to be things and topics that we're going to miss. There's going to be things we're going to try to cram everything in, but just know that this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding your strengths and the Clifton assessment. So we'll dive right in. I think,
Absolutely.
Augusta, the thing that I'm often asked about when I ask somebody, what are your strengths? They start often telling me what their skills are or what
Mm,
they do really well.
yes.
And I think one of the things that when I'm asked about a strength, my immediate reaction is to remind them, and I'm sure people have heard this before, that we are human beings, not human doings. And our
Yeah.
strengths are who we are. We just can't help but not be those people. And it does show up in what we do, but it
Mm,
is who we are first versus a skill that we do and a thing that we can the skill is something. This is a big debate, is how early in our lives do our strengths show up? And
mm,
strengths is saying quite young in many ways.
absolutely.
And it's because this is who we are, right? The skill that we have as a 3-year-old, it's probably, I hope, not the same skill that we have as a 49-year-old.
Yeah.
I hope we walk a lot better. I hope we have more balance. Those are skills, but the strengths are sort of being. When you think
Absolutely.
about when people ask you about a strength, Augusta, is there something that you enjoy sharing with people about what a strength is?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You've said it beautifully when you said we're human beings, not human doings. And I really believe that Clifton Strengths, really does help us identify those unique talents,
Yeah.
so they say, that motivate us. And they're the things that we really, how we naturally think and feel. And when we understand that, how can we then learn to point those towards skills, like you were saying, are doing, so that we get so much more satisfaction and success out of that.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is important to share is that From Within Coaching, our organization is a
Mhm.
strength-based organization. What the heck does that mean? We fully believe in, when we focus on our strengths, instead of focusing on weaknesses, which I think is sort of the American way of doing things, is like, oh, let
Mm.
me fix what's broken. And we actually don't think that you're broken, but we believe that if you focus on what you do that comes naturally, you can take it to a whole other level so much easier. And that truly our weaknesses aren't things that we don't do well, they're things that drain us.
Yeah.
So why would we focus on things that drain us?
Yeah.
We focus on strengths, and whether that's at From Within Coaching, we coach all different kinds of folks with career and life and wellness and professional development, and I coach coaches. Your strengths, understanding your strengths, can help all aspects of your journey, whatever the changes that you're looking for, because it creates awareness, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's why I do that. Like, that's what, when you learn your strengths, that is the statement that people will say in their head. Oh,
Mm.
that explains everything.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, that's, I remember the first time that I took Clifton Strengths years ago with you, and it really helped me look back on my successes, areas of my life where I'd struggled to try to make something work, to try to get myself to do something maybe that wasn't inherently naturally, it didn't come to me. Oh my God, it helped me make so much sense. Yeah. Of aha, you
Hindsight,
know,
right? Yes.
there's nothing wrong, right? We can so easily think because I can't do something this certain way that the expectations of others or a job position where you might not be aligned, and we're trying to force ourselves, like you said, taking all this energy to try to make ourselves do something that we're not inherently motivated towards. We wonder why we keep hitting up against a
Right.
wall or are dissatisfied and unhappy.
So perfectly said. For you, when you think about whether it's for you personally or a tool that you use as a coach, why do you love strengths so much? What is it about strengths for you?
Uh, Again, it goes back to, I think, how you started us out, is really kind of focusing on our being sense, because as coaches, we're really, invested in helping other people um, make some type of a transformational change
Yeah.
that is sustainable and is aligned with who they truly are,
Yeah.
and not based on, well, the expectations of others. That's how we all live, it seems like. But when we really have time to do some of this work that's kind of a deep dive into self discovery,
Yeah.
then we can understand how we truly
Yeah.
best navigate this world. And
If
so I
I use
start with strengths.
I use the term drain, and I talked about
Mm,
how a weakness is not so much the thing that you don't do well. You may not do it well because why would you do it well? It drains you.
yeah.
If a weakness drains you, what does a strength do for you?
Oh, well, drain, opposite. I mean, for me, it sounds like fuel,
Yeah.
putting gas in the tank.
Mm,
And it's energizing. When we can identify things that we, are naturally recurring for us, our preferred way of being in the world, then it's effortless.
yeah.
It's almost like that if we think of it in an energetic sense of that flow, we are able to do an activity or be, show up and do something in a way that we lose sense of time, because
Yeah.
we're not drained doing it, and we
Yes.
show up in this incredibly aligned, energized, animated way. And I don't know about you, but I love it when I work with clients and they get that aha moment of, this is why this hasn't been working, and I can just develop the strength a little bit and point it toward a skill that will fuel me in that way.
Yes. Yes. Now, we've been using the term strengths, and Clifton Strengths is the assessment tool that we use, and I'll explain a little bit why we.
Yeah, why do we choose that
Yeah,
tool over that? I mean, there are
because there's so
many
many.
out there. I
Right.
mean, personality tests, Myers-Briggs,
Yeah.
the BIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me, Amy, and I get that question a lot from clients, and I love answering it, but tell me, why do we use Clifton Strengths?
I'm going to give you my professional and personal history with sort of assessments, and then we'll talk a little
Wonderful.
bit about, because Clifton Strengths, even though the name of it is Clifton Strengths, they talk about the 34 strengths that they've identified as themes. So remind me, we'll talk
Mhm.
about that too. For
Okay.
me personally, my background was in psychology. I wanted to work with the criminally insane growing up. I think it takes a little bit of insanity to do that. And life threw me a curveball and I went a different direction. However, one of the things that I went through when I was going through that training was how to, the different assessments that were out there at the time, and how to take, sorry, how to not only give them but to take them, and to understand
Mhm.
how people can mess with them.
Mm.
Oh, you want me to show up as this? Oh, I can see it coming and I know how to sort of answer it. And I think what I loved when I found out about Clifton Strengths, which at the time was named Strength Finders
Mhm.
and is part of the Gallup organization, was that it's more about, like we said, the being,
Mhm.
and not just being of, like, you've got like Myers-Briggs, which will tell you if you're extroverted or introverted, which we probably don't need an assessment to figure that one out. We can probably just watch a child at play and figure that out. Are you feeling or thinking? Yeah, probably. What I loved about it was that Clifton Strengths offered a way for you to understand your being in common language. So, as
Mm.
an example, my number one strength is individualization. If I said to you, I'm an INFP, you may, and you didn't take Myers Briggs, you may be like, I'm not really sure I know what that means.
Mhm.
And I would say, well, the I stands for, for introvert. You go, oh, okay. But then,
Mhm.
but you have to remember these acronyms. And what I love about Clifton Strengths is
Yeah.
if I said to you individualization, you may not know exactly what that is, but you've got a pretty good sense that I treat human beings as individuals and I
Yes.
value individualization. I value the differences between human beings because I actually think the differences are what actually create incredible patchwork for us, right?
Ah,
So,
yes.
so when I found out about Clifton Strengths, took it, realized, and there's a couple of amazing algorithm things that happen,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to give away, that happen when you're taking that assessment is that I'd say 99% of the 1,000 people that I've taken through this, just even in the last couple of years, every one of them sits back and goes, that nailed me.
Mm.
Nailed me perfectly. And there may be a little bit of doubt, and we'll talk about where that doubt maybe comes up, but and it gives them an even deeper sense. They then can turn around and say to a loved one, this is who I am in the language, relator, activator,
Mm.
achiever. These are words we've heard before.
Yeah.
INFP may not make any sense to anybody.
Or 7, 8, 9, or depending on an anagram or any of those
Totally,
other ones that use
totally.
numbers. Yeah.
I'm going to use another little sort of metaphor that I wrote down here. Imagine a house and the rooms within it. Myers-Briggs and other assessments indicate the room in which an individual is most comfortable residing in. Clifton
Mm.
Strengths Assessment represents furnishings, functional pieces, decorations, the paint
Mm.
color, anything else that's inside that room. And it helps us understand the individual's unique, innate abilities.
Yes.
I like to say
That's cool.
they're your top internal organs, your 5 internal
Mm.
organs. They come back with your top 5. And it's like understanding your heart, your
Mhm.
lungs, your head, your brain, your lungs, your liver, all of these top 5 that it doesn't matter what the rest of your organs are doing. If those top 5 are not working together, it's not a good
Mm.
thing. So for me, I think Myers and these other assessments absolutely give you some opportunity to reflect, but I think Clifton is so powerful because it
Yeah.
helps you understand the why behind you, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Oh,
Mhm.
that does. That's it. And then also, what's coming up for me is it's the practical application of this information.
Yes.
Like, so, okay, so now I know I'm an introvert. So how do I move forward in, if we're using it on a team or in a job, job search? But I think with, once we understand our top 5 and can see how unique they are to us based on, what is there's a, people ask me, so how many other people have my top 5? Well,
Right.
it's actually like 1 in 33 million. It is incredible when you think about that. And not only are these top 5 specific and unique to us, but
Yeah.
they're also, it's a very holistic way to look at each individual person when I'm talking to them about strengths, because it's they're all those top 5, even as individual it is to that person, are tinged with life experience and past experiences and show up differently in the constellation of the top 5, but then also depending on that individual person. So it is just so exciting always.
The to play with that house sort of idea again, these other assessments put you in the zip code to where
Mm,
that house is. Clifton Strengths puts you right at the front door
yeah,
and
that's,
shows you how to walk through. And I
yeah.
think that's so many times people, and you mentioned this, so many times people will take an assessment. Oh, that's good to know.
Mm,
Now what do I do
what
with
do I
it?
do? Yeah.
And I think Clifton does such an amazing job helping people not only understand it with language that they can then share with others to help others
Mhm.
understand, but then help guide you through here's what's next. Here's what to do with that. And so,
Yeah.
as you can tell, we're big fans of it. That is for sure. What's interesting though is that Clifton Strengths is named that, and yet there's 34 themes. And what they say is that these are the themes in your life, these top five
Mm,
themes, and that to truly have them become the strength, it is focusing in on them. For lack of confusing the watcher here, I'm just going to keep calling them strengths. So your
mhm.
34 strengths right now,
Yes.
that's what we're going to be talking about. And so I think it, there's something that we do. Will you share a little bit about the process we take people through in terms of their conscious and unconscious strengths?
Oh, well, I mean, that's a great thing to talk about because I'm sure you've had it also. People are like, I can take, I don't even need to take that. I know what my top strengths are. And
Yes.
so and so they do a process where at first, before you even take the assessment, we do have clients say, okay, what do you think your unconscious, I mean, your conscious strengths are, the ones that you think you have.
Yeah.
And then they identify those. And then what happens? They,
Usually, right? None
yeah,
of that what they actually get in the assessment, often they are not anything close to it.
yeah, yeah.
But
There
that can
might be one or two, right?
yeah,
That they get correctly.
amazing when that happens, but
Yeah.
it's actually amazing how people who pride themselves on knowing themselves are like they're almost aghast, like, "I can't believe I didn't get any of them right," and that's not a it's not a right or wrong thing, right? It's what
No, it's
you're
not.
conscious
Yeah.
about. Now, let me ask you this. A conscious strength is something that you know you do, right?
Hmm.
And you said when we were talking about energy, you can feel yourself do it. Therefore, it makes it conscious, right? You're
Yeah.
aware that you do it. But your real strengths are really this unconscious thing that in so many ways you don't even know that you do
Right.
at every minute of the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's our innate way of being.
Yeah. And I'm sure I think one of the things that's really cool for me is that I've often had my clients have their partners or best friends or sisters
Hmm.
or brothers choose the strengths. So the client will choose their conscious strengths, and I'll ask somebody in their life to choose their conscious, what they think their strengths
Think.
are too for this client. And often the friend or the partner nails more of them,
Yeah.
gets more of the five correct than the person. And that happens because literally the person that is in the strength, they just like
Yeah.
they shift, right? Their
Yeah.
energy shifts, and that comes back to you saying it fuels them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all, my goal with my clients, my goal in my life is to live in a way that is meaningful and fuels me and energizing and inspiring and motivating, because when we show up this way, we impact others in a totally different way than we do if we're walking around drained and frustrated, and forcing a way of being that's not natural to us. So yeah, absolutely. Clifton Strengths, starting with this in my coaching, and I know with from within, all the other coaches use it, is just a brilliant way to say, here, let's look at who you are, so we can get a good look at how you best
Yeah,
be in this world.
yeah, and how you problem solve and how you
Absolutely.
face change and how you agree. I mean, it's who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that that is every once in a while I will get somebody who fights me.
Hmm.
They
Same.
are like,
Yep.
there is no way I have this. As an example, I have strategic as one of my
Hmm.
top five. And I would never have thought that I was strategic. I think I had so many smart people around me and really great leaders who just thought in this whole other level. And I didn't think I could ever do that. So when I got it, I was one of those people. I was like, I'm not strategic.
Yeah.
And then when I started to understand that strategic is actually being able to see patterns of what's happening or what's not happening, holes, I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I do that every day.
Yeah.
I can see, you could throw a deck of cards on the floor. I'd look at it for a second and be able to say to you, about 90% of them are red. There's about 20% that's that's face
Yeah.
up. Like I'd be able to, and I'd be like, and I just don't see the Joker.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's strategic. And so the second I learned that, I was like, that is me. But there are people who doubt it. What I love though is that when they tell me they doubt it, they proceed to give me an example of using the strength to explain why they don't have it, that strength, like every time, right?
Yes. Yeah. 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 Well, and that's a really true statement, because sometimes those words, like strategic is my top strength, and I had the same reaction. But strategic for you shows up, it is, there is that overview of strategic, but how it shows up for you based on your four other strengths is totally different how I use it with my four strengths. So that's such a fun discussion with the ones who say, whoa, how can I be this? And hey, let's look and see how it plays with your other ones. And then
You
they see it.
you have such a great term for the five. Will you
Oh, a
share?
constellation. We have a constellation that's unique to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's
it's,
such a beautiful way of saying it, right? Because
yeah,
it's how we interact, and it's the things that truly um truly draw us
yeah,
and create energy for us. So I just love
yeah,
constellation. I think that's
yeah. Well, this is, Clifton Strengths has been really, really an amazing tool to use. I love it. And, um, it's just exciting. It energizes me, to
yeah,
help people find out how they best, navigate this world and can help others do the same.
yeah,
So
yeah. There's
always happy.
when you were going through this, was there a question that you had personally that you really like you kind of went back to about strengths? And it could be, strength versus weakness, it could be something else, but like what was the question that you had?
Well, yeah, and I think you touched on it, and you might be able to even speak to it a little bit better. But there are so many organizations and trainings and books and things that focus on how to get better at what we're struggling at. So our weaknesses. So again, Amy, could you just tell us a little bit more about why we as a coaching company
Yeah.
don't do that? What do we do with this
Yeah.
instead?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I mentioned that a weakness truly is something that drains us. And what's
Mhm.
interesting is that our top five strengths, when dialed up really high, can actually become a weakness because we feel like for whatever reason we're going into battle. Um, and so we'll take our strongest strengths with us, right? Like almost like a sharpest tool into battle. And those are our strengths. And so when they get dialed up, they actually can become the weakness,
Mhm.
the thing that comes up against somebody else's strength, or
Mhm.
two strengths can come into conflict with one another. And when you feel
Mhm.
stuck, what you probably feel is two strengths fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And so just even that awareness is important. But the thing that happens is that when we focus on our weakness, we only get not so bad at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not it's going to be okay. When we focus on our strengths, what happens is that whatever the weakness is becomes not as impactful
Mm,
because we're actually able to elevate other parts of us so much that either
yeah.
someone steps in to take something else on for us, or if those are things that may harm, they're a little less impactful because the good that we're doing is so much further up here. Let me
Yeah.
say this too, because I think it kind of comes back around to conscious strengths versus unconscious strengths. It's not that we don't do 34 of these strengths, right? So, for example, I am not an activator, and an activator loves fueled by getting things started. I actually do love progress and I love to get things started, but I don't love it, doesn't fuel me. It's not
Mhm.
what I do every day that wakes me up and gets me excited. But I love movement and I love to get a project started. I do really enjoy it. It just doesn't bring me this kind of joy and unlimited energy. And I
Mhm.
think that for some people, they have strengths envy. Like, oh, I'd
Oh
love
yeah.
to have achiever,
I
which is the finisher, right?
yeah.
And so, just understanding that it's not that we don't do these other strengths, it's just that they don't fuel us the same.
As a top 5, yeah.
Right. And so for us, when we work on our weakness, we get not so bad at it, but we never become, amazingly, it never really will give us the same amount of energy and fuel
Yeah.
us.
That's
And that's
totally
hard
right.
because some people take jobs where
Mm.
they're in the exact opposite of their strengths, right? I know you've had
Yeah.
people like that.
Oh, yeah. And they yeah. And so being able to I mean, that's why it's invaluable, obviously when you work with corporations and other companies and help them identify their team members or their employer's strengths or the employee's strengths so that they can see, oh, wow, she's in this role or position and wow, if we moved over here or this is why maybe it's not maximized or, reaching its potential, but if we shifted to this because she is an activator
Right.
or whatever is identified, it's brilliant, right? It helps you to understand how everybody is going to best work.
You said it so perfectly in the sense of, so whether this is for organizations
Mhm.
to know what their teams are, we've had families take this
Yeah.
so that they can understand, right?
Kids,
If
yeah.
someone's not being an ass or being mean about something, this is how they see the world. And when we understand that a little bit better
Yeah.
about those that are around us,
Mm.
we can actually support them in their strengths, but we don't get angry when they're not someone we want them to be.
Well, we're not focusing on their weakness maybe, which is
And
inherent.
as you
Yeah.
know, is and I'd love to talk about constellation again for a second, and especially the uniqueness of our strengths and how they play off of each other. Because I think one of the things that happens is with me with individualization and with you with strategic, I think sometimes we just assume for strategic the other people's brains works as fast as yours does, or
Mhm.
for me individualization, that everybody sees the uniqueness in others. And what we know is
Yeah.
that there are strengths. That doesn't mean there's somebody else's. And I think conflict happens because
Yeah.
we're like, how are you not seeing that? Right?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to also, just briefly, when we understand our own strengths, we have that insight and we're able maybe to step out of judgment and internal conflict. Why can't I do this or why isn't this working? And so when we have that understanding with ourselves, we then show up in a way that we're able to have that understanding with others. It's the starting point.
Yeah. So it's the starting point of conversations, understanding,
Yeah.
awareness. That's
Yeah.
why we love it.
Yeah.
It's a language that anybody can use in all different kinds of scenarios and situations, but it creates my favorite thing in the world, which is awareness, right?
Same.
So
Yeah.
much comes from that.
Yeah.
So, Augusta, can you think of anything else? We just, again, we've got a short amount of time. We're trying to
I
pack a
know.
lot
I'm like,
in. Is there
um,
anything that we forgot, at least for now, at least in touching before they dive into their five strengths and really
uh,
the unpacking that we do with each one of those? Anything that you'd want them to make sure that they know?
I just, again, when we go back to why do we as an organization use Clifton Strengths, the actual integrity of the assessment
Mm.
and the years and years of Gallup is a huge organization and there's always ready information, and it's actually a lot of information on how they researched this and developed this tool.
Yeah.
I think for me, as my background is science, and I kind of like knowing that something is validated and researched and well researched. So any client that has an interest in that or questions, it's really easy for me to have that explanation and
Yeah.
also point them to the huge amount of data that's around the validity of this assessment.
Yeah. And that for me is the icing on the cake
Mhm.
is the science, the data, the human understanding human behavior, even how you're taking the assessment is something that they're looking at because how you even take an assessment says something about who you are and
Absolutely.
how you navigate problem solving. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we hope for those that are about to dive into their top 5 strengths, um, that they have either purchased or been given.
Mhm.
We hope it's a chance for you to again create awareness for yourself, understand a little bit more, but know that you as an individual, or how they all work together, as Augusta so perfectly said, may be different than somebody else with those top 5, or even if yours is a number 1 strength and somebody else is number 5, even how they show up is a little bit differently because of their ranking. But at least this helps you get a little bit
Yeah.
better understanding of what this is. If you do have more questions about Clifton's strengths, utilizing it for business, utilizing it for personal use, we're here. We always love to talk about strengths. It's one of our favorite strengths to talk about, right? Is sort of strengths. We just love it. And I think at the end of the day, we love it because we see so many light bulb moments happen for our clients because of strengths and Clifton strengths specifically.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a part of this. Folks will see you in their top 5. And yeah, thank you for
Thank you,
believing
Amy.
in not only strengths, but also in From Within as well as being one of our top coaches. So thank you, Augusta, for doing this journey with me.
Absolutely, Amy. It's been amazing. Thank you.
We'll see you in the videos.